I want you to guess what year this is. A machine prints out a piece of paper. Someone picks up a pen and writes a number on it by hand. That number becomes an order for car parts. Parts that end up inside vehicles sold all over the world. It's not 1995. It happened this morning. And the system this fax machine feeds into? It's called the most efficient manufacturing system ever built. Business schools teach it. Executives fly across the world to study it. I know both of these things are true at the same time, because I'm the person standing between them. My name is Ken. That's not my real name, and you'll never see my face, because I sell software to these factories for a living, and my customers trust me. Here's what I can tell you. I'm a Japanese salesman. Before this job, I worked more places than I can count. Convenience stores, home construction sales, even Japan's nightlife business. These days, my world is factories. Every week, I visit auto parts manufacturers inside Toyota's supply chain. The companies that make the sensors, the brackets, the stamped metal parts inside the car you might be driving right now. The internet is full of videos about Japanese manufacturing. This channel is different. I'm going to show you what it actually looks like from the inside. The brilliant parts and the parts nobody talks about. Today, the fax machines. Let me describe what an order actually looks like. A sheet of paper comes out of the machine. It's a printed form, and someone at the customer's company has filled in the quantities by hand. Sometimes there's a hanko on it, a personal stamp used instead of a signature. Sometimes there isn't. Then a person at the receiving company reads that handwritten number and types it into their production system by hand. Sometimes the workflow goes the other way too. The supplier fills in their own fields, delivery dates, confirmations, and faxes the same sheet back. A two-way paper protocol. Request and response at 9,600 baud. And here's the part that surprises people the most. This isn't just small family workshops. In my experience, publicly listed companies, corporations with stock tickers, send orders this way. From what I see week to week, more than half of the companies I visit still use fax somewhere in their order flow. That's not a national statistic, that's just my territory, my eyes. But the macro numbers back it up. When Japan's government tried to phase out fax machines from its own ministries in 2021, the plan collapsed under internal resistance. Reports say over 90% of Japanese local governments still rely on fax for daily operations. And in September 2025, when a ransomware attack crippled one of Japan's biggest beverage companies, you know what employees reached for to keep orders moving? The fax machine. Now here's the image I really want you to hold in your head. I've stood in offices where 3 machines sit side by side. An EDI terminal. That's the electronic ordering system, the modern way, connected directly to the customer's network. Next to it, a Kanban card reader, the barcode system that runs Toyota's famous just-in-time production. And next to that, a fax machine. Warm, plugged in, working. The same company, the same room. 1980s technology and 21st century technology running the same supply chain at the same time. The first time I saw this, I was doing a routine sales interview, just asking a customer to walk me through every way they receive orders. EDI, they said, Kanban cards, fax, and then one more, postal mail, paper orders, in an envelope with a stamp. So why? If you're watching from the US or Europe, you probably have an explanation loaded already. Japan is stuck in the past. Old people, old habits. I used to think something like that too. Then I started asking my customers directly, why don't you stop? And the answer changed how I see the whole system. In my experience, the most common answer sounds something like this. Our customer sends it. We can't stop it. Think about what that means. The fax isn't the supplier's choice. The order comes from upstream, from the buyer. And in Japan's automotive supply chain, the buyer-supplier relationship works on trust and long-term loyalty. The kind of relationship that can last decades. When the company that keeps your factory running for 30 years sends you a handwritten fax, you don't call them up and ask them to change their process. You buy more fax paper. Here's my read on why it survives. Not because everyone loves it, but because of what looks like a network effect. Nobody can switch on their own. It's a similar dynamic to why fax machines are still common in American healthcare. When the other side of the line requires it, you keep the machine. There's a second layer to this, and it's the one I find most interesting. Even when a company could push for change, the math often doesn't favor it, at least from what I've seen in my sales conversations. If fax is only one of 4 order channels, replacing it doesn't transform the business. You'd spend money and effort to digitize a fraction of incoming orders. The improvement is real, but small enough that it rarely becomes anyone's top priority. So it just continues. And a third layer, the human one. Here's something I believe after years of visiting these offices, and you can disagree with me in the comments. In a lot of Japanese workplaces, making office work more efficient doesn't really get rewarded. If you streamline your own job and finish early, you don't go home early. You just get handed more work, same salary. So from the inside, the rational move for the person handling those faxes is, don't fix it. And if you think the factory floor is different, that's where Kaizen lives, right? Continuous improvement, the famous Toyota religion. Here's what I actually see on many of those floors, in my experience. Workers, writing production results on paper forms, by hand. Progress managed with magnets on a whiteboard. And this isn't a minor player. This is inside the supply chain of the most studied manufacturing system on Earth. The textbook version of Japanese manufacturing and the version I walk through every week are 2 different countries. And almost nobody outside Japan talks about the second one. So does the fax ever die? Based on what I've seen in my own sales territory, companies rarely quit fax because it's slow. They quit when they're forced to. The old host computer loses vendor support. The hardware isn't sold anymore. The one employee who ran the system retires. In my experience, change in the companies I work with often comes not from a strategic decision, but from something simply reaching its expiration date. And a lot of expiration dates are coming. Old mainframe systems across Japan are hitting end of support. The engineers who maintain them are retiring. Phone networks that carry fax signals are being switched off around the world. Which brings me to something I see in my job every single day. Companies running their entire production on computer systems older than the employees operating them. There's a man I know of who used the same core system from the day he joined his company until the day he retired. 37 years. One system. One career. That's a story for another day on this channel. I'm Ken. I sell software to Japan's auto parts factories, and I make these videos so you can see what business in Japan actually looks like, not the textbook version. If that sounds interesting, subscribe. And if you've got questions about how Japanese companies really work, ask in the comments. I read them on the train between customer visits. Next time, I'm taking you somewhere completely different. The night shift at a Japanese convenience store. And I didn't just work the register. I ended up owning one. See you in the next one.